Russia doesn't stop bombarding Ukrainian infrastructure. The country is exhausted, and so is its military. What does it mean that Donald Trump will be coming back to the White House in a couple of weeks, and what did he talk about with President Zelensky in Paris? I have the chance to talk with a Ukrainian member of parliament here in Washington, D.C. Oleksandra Ustinova, thank you so much for making time for Deutsche Welle again.
My pleasure.
Yeah. President Donald Trump-elect just met with President Zelensky in Paris. Do you know what they talked about?
Of course, they've been talking about Ukraine and how to stop the war. And also, I think this is a really good sign that President Trump had already had a few meetings with President Zelensky. He had never had that many meetings with any other head of state. So it means that Ukraine is a priority, and he understands that he will be playing one of the crucial roles in this war to be over. We also understand that to sit down for the negotiations and talk about how to stop this war, we need to come up strong. For this, we need the weapons to be delivered, we need the new technologies to be unlocked and not to be limited to certain areas, I would say. And if this is being done, then it would be much easier for us to negotiate. To negotiate Putin, you have to punch him first, then punch him again, and then sit down at the negotiations table. And Zelensky was very clear about it. Give us the weapons, help us stabilize the situation at the front lines, and then we can do.
Do you think this resonated with Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is a negotiator. He is a salesman. He understands it is very difficult to sell something being weak. And that's why I have big hopes that there will be a change of attitude and the deliverers would be speed up and we would actually get the weapons we need. So he and we can come up in a better position for negotiations, because otherwise, in the reality we have right now, it's a very weak position to negotiate.
But Donald Trump also said that he's not agreeing with the sitting president, with Joe Biden, who finally kind of allowed you to use these long-ranging missiles, that Donald Trump doesn't agree with that you use missiles which are able to hit Russia territory. What does this mean? I
can tell you that a lot of members of his party supported that and wrote official letters about that. And I know that Mitch McConnell, who was the leader of the Senate, supported that. A lot of the senators, a lot of the Congress people from the Republican Party stood up publicly saying this technology needs to be provided to Ukraine. I think when President Trump gets classified briefings on how crucial that was and how needed it was, and unfortunately how many people we lost not having this in time, he will change his mind. And he was the first president who provided lethal weapons to Ukraine, the first US president. So I do have big hopes that he's a negotiator, he's a businessman, and he understands that Ukraine needs to be strong to negotiate Putin.
Talking about his party members, you met with many people from the Hill. How is the situation right now? What's the mood?
So the mood is moving on. So we have people moving from one cabinets to another. So I've been on the Hill for the last 3 days. And first of all, if you talk to Republicans, of course, there are big hopes for big changes. On the other side, it's also the understanding of the responsibility, because if you have full power, both the House and the Senate, and the administration, it's basically no one to blame. It's all your responsibility. But on the other side, everyone I've met, especially on the senior level, said that it's going to be a good change for Ukraine, and we're not going to stop supporting Ukraine. And they're hoping that a lot of the decisions that had been weak and cost us a lot of lives could be changed now. Because, again, we have been asking for a lot of weapons and had been provided in a very small numbers. I had a meeting with one of the chairmen of the committees, and his question was, what is Europe doing? Where is Europe in this war? And I honestly told him, Congressman, in 2022 it was mainly the United States who was supporting Ukraine. If you look now, it's at least half of the support is coming from Europe. All of the air defense systems like Patriots that we have in the country came from Europe. 3 from Germany, 1 from Netherlands. You gave us 33 tanks, Europeans gave over 140. None of the jets, none of the F-16 that we have now in Ukraine came from the United States. It all came from Europe. So Europe understands it might be their war. They're stepping in and they're putting tons of budgets and tons of support to support Ukraine. And I think this is something that resonates with them, because a lot of them live in this bubble thinking that it's only the United States that has thrown hundreds of billions into support of Ukraine. When I told, look, read the last report of your IG of DOD. Your Inspector General came 3 days ago with a report saying that so far it's been 23 billion worth weapons delivered to Ukraine. And what hundreds of billions are we talking about if your own IG says it's 23? And I think it's been a little bit of a cold shower to a lot of these people.
If I listen to you closely, Sasha, it sounds like President Trump might be even better for you than President Biden.
I don't know. I cannot. It's not for me to decide who is the president of the United States. But I do believe that any president of the United States understands the responsibility, not about Ukraine, but the role of the United States will play in the world. And this role will be decided in Ukraine. It's not about Ukraine anymore. And that's what I keep saying. This is not a Ukrainian-Russian war. We have 10,000 North Koreans fighting. We have Iranian drones and ballistic missiles flying there. Russians are training Hamas. What are we talking about Ukrainian-Russian conflict? That's a big war already. And it's whether the United States shows as being a strong country who can stop that, or it's going to be weak. And China is watching. China is sitting there watching what's going to happen. And again, it's not about even Ukraine. It's about the United States and their role in this world, whether they want to be a leader or they want to look weak, especially after Afghanistan and a lot of the decisions that have been made.
However, Donald Trump said that in first day in office, once he's in office on his first day, he will stop this war. There were a lot of kind of worries in your country and also in Europe that he might do a deal with Vladimir Putin, which is not kind of in favor of Ukraine. How worried are you still about that possibility?
So again, President Trump is a salesman and a negotiator. He definitely doesn't want the United States to look weak. If he gives up Ukraine, that's a clear sign for China and other autocracies that the United States is backing up. They're not a leader in this world anymore, and we can do whatever we want. Taiwan, Middle East, anything else. So I don't think it's going to happen, and we need to understand that there is messaging from politicians, especially when they are running for their cabinets, for internal audience and external audience. Donald Trump was running for the President of the United States. The messages he had put in his campaign were for the American people, not for Ukrainians, because it was not for Ukrainians to vote for him. So again, I just keep saying we need to not to read what it is in the news or social media. We will need to see what the first steps are going to be. When I'm looking at the appointments to the cabinet, I see great people who had been supporting Ukraine. Kellogg has been one of the champions in supporting Ukraine. Congressman Waltz had a huge Ukrainian flag in his cabinet for months after the war broke, saying Russian warship go really far. I'm not going to quote it.
Russia is intensifying its kind of destruction of Ukrainian infrastructure. Your people back home seem to be really exhausted. So is the military. For how long do you think you can keep on fighting?
It depends on how much weapons we're going to get. Because right now, we ended up having a World War I, just with the drones flying on. So it's a war of infantry. This has to be a war of technology. And that's why we keep asking our partners to provide the weapons and the technology for us that can help change the situation in the front lines. If we had at least 10% of the weapons that our partners have, this war would be over in a few days.
But the situation is as it is, and how are your soldiers keeping up?
The soldiers are calling me every second day asking me, oh, we see all of these announcements that there are billions being spent for weapons to Ukraine. Where are they, Sasha? And I honestly have to tell them, guys, these are commitments. These are not weapons coming, and you have to wait. You have to stay there, wait, and fight until those weapons arrive.
If they don't arrive, what happens?
If there are no weapons deliveries, it's going to be very difficult for us to sustain the war. But we have our own production. We started with 8 producers of drones at the beginning of the war. Now we have over 500. So we can produce a lot of our own technologies, and we're producing them much faster and much cheaper than a lot of our partners do. And that's why we already have Europeans and even Americans investing in our own technology, buying our own stuff for our own army, because it proves to be good.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.